It was a bright, sunny afternoon, the kind of day that made the air feel warm and sweet with summer energy. The neighborhood park was filled with the laughter of children running along the paths, parents chatting on benches, and the occasional sound of a dog barking at a stray butterfly. In one quiet corner of the park, a small lemonade stand had been set up, bright with yellow tablecloths and colorful signs that read, "Fresh lemonade, only $1." The girl who ran the stand was full of life, her hair tied back in a simple braid that swung as she moved. Her eyes sparkled with excitement every time a customer approached, and she greeted everyone with a cheerful smile. "Hi, would you like some lemonade? It's really fresh and sweet." She had set up her stand with care, folding the little chairs neatly and making sure the pitchers were full and cold, with ice cubes clinking against the glass. People had begun to notice her stand over the past few days. Some were curious neighbors stopping to support her small business. Others were joggers or parents passing through, tempted by the smell of fresh lemons and the sweet aroma of sugar mixed with ice-cold water. She was proud of her little stand. It was more than just selling lemonade. It was a place where she could interact with the community, practice her people skills, and feel independent. As she handed a cup of lemonade to an elderly man, she noticed a shadow approaching from the edge of the park. At first, she thought it was another parent or jogger, but as the figure got closer, she realized it was something entirely different. A group of bikers was rolling into the park, their motorcycles rumbling loudly across the pavement. The sound made heads turn, and a wave of unease spread through the area. The leader of the bikers was a tall man with a thick beard and dark sunglasses, even though the sun wasn't too bright. He had a leather jacket with patches on it and a look that immediately suggested trouble. His gang followed closely behind him, a dozen motorcycles that gleamed under the sunlight, engines growling like angry animals. The girl's heart sank. She had heard stories from the neighborhood about troublemakers like this, but she had never imagined facing them herself. She clutched the edge of her table nervously, glancing around at the few other people in the park. Some parents were quickly gathering their children, dogs were being called back to leashes, and joggers were changing their routes. The park, usually lively and cheerful, now held a tense silence broken only by the throaty roar of the motorcycles. The leader of the bikers stopped his bike a few feet from her stand. He swung one leg off the seat and stepped onto the pavement with a casual arrogance that made her feel small and exposed. The other bikers parked behind him, forming a semicircle, their faces unreadable but intimidating. "Hey, little girl," the leader said, his voice deep and commanding, echoing slightly in the quiet park. "What's this? A lemonade stand? You think you can make money here?" The girl swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. I'm just selling lemonade. It's for anyone who wants some." She smiled nervously, hoping her courage would show. The leader laughed, a low, mocking sound. "A lemonade stand? In my park? That's cute. But don't you think this is a little boring for people like us?" One of the bikers behind him snickered, and the girl could see the men exchanging glances that sent shivers down her spine. She gripped the table, her knuckles whitening. She had never been threatened like this before. The summer sun felt hotter, the air heavier, as if the world was pressing down on her. I just want to sell lemonade," she said again, her voice firmer this time, trying to mask the fear creeping into her chest. The leader stepped closer, leaning slightly toward her stand. "Maybe we can make this more interesting," he said, his grin crooked and dangerous. "What do you say we have some fun?" Her stomach twisted. She had no idea what he meant, but the tone in his voice made it clear that it wasn't friendly. She stepped back slightly, almost bumping into the table, and quickly moved a pitcher of lemonade to shield herself. The biker laughed again, loud and rough. "Relax, little girl. I'm just teasing, but maybe you need to understand who's in charge around here." Her eyes darted to the other people in the park. Some were frozen in place, unsure whether to help or stay safe. Others were slowly moving toward the exits, their faces anxious. She realized she couldn't count on anyone to step in immediately. She was alone except for the bikers and their intimidating presence. Her mind raced. She thought about fleeing, running away to the street where more people might be, but something inside her refused to give in. She had worked hard on this stand, and she wasn't going to let fear take it from her. She straightened her shoulders, trying to appear braver than she felt. "Please just leave me alone," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I don't want any trouble." The leader's grin widened. "Trouble? Oh, honey, Trouble found you the moment you set up this little stand. But don't worry. We're just here for a little fun. One of the bikers suddenly kicked the sign that hung in front of her table, sending it tumbling to the ground. The girl jumped back, a gasp escaping her lips. Her lemonade spilled slightly, the ice cubes rattling in the pitcher. Her heart pounded, and for a moment she felt a surge of panic. "Hey, stop that!" she shouted, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. "This isn't funny." The leader shook his head slowly, his sunglasses reflecting the sun. "Funny? Oh, it's very funny. But maybe we can make it more memorable." A sense of dread filled the girl as she realized they were not joking. She scanned the park, desperate for help, but the people nearby seemed helpless or unwilling to get involved. The situation was escalating, and she knew she needed a miracle to get out of this safely. Her hands trembled as she clutched the pitcher, thinking of ways to defend herself, but she was just a child, and they were large, powerful adults. Every instinct told her to run, but she felt trapped, caught in the middle of a situation she couldn't control. Then, a sudden sound cut through the tension, the rumble of powerful engines approaching from the far end of the park. The girl froze, unsure if this was another group of bikers or something else entirely. The rumble grew louder, and soon the unmistakable presence of motorcycles was accompanied by the sight of two figures riding confidently, almost impossibly fast and precise. The leader of the biker gang looked toward the approaching motorcycles, confusion flickering across his face. "Who the hell?" he muttered. The girl's eyes widened in disbelief as the two figures came into view. One was tall and muscular, with a commanding presence that seemed to radiate authority even from a distance. The other was equally impressive, with an energy that was confident, focused, and unmistakably heroic. They were arriving just when she needed help the most. The bikers' laughter faltered. Their confidence, built on intimidation and fear, wavered as the new arrivals drew closer. The girl felt her heart lift slightly, a spark of hope igniting within her. She wasn't alone anymore. As the two figures pulled up in front of the gang, they dismounted their motorcycles with ease, their movements fluid and practiced. One of them, the taller figure, stepped forward and addressed the leader directly. His voice was calm but carried authority, like someone used to being listened to. "You need to leave," he said simply, his eyes locked on the biker. "Now." The biker leader sneered, trying to maintain control, but there was a hesitation in his stance. "And who are you supposed to be?" he demanded. The second figure, equally commanding, stepped beside the first. "People who don't hurt kids," he said firmly. "You're done here." The girl watched, amazed, as the balance of power shifted instantly. The bikers, who had moments ago been the most intimidating force in the park, now looked you after the bikers had left the park. The girl stood behind her lemonade stand, still gripping the pitcher tightly. Her hands shook slightly, and she could feel her heart racing in her chest. The earlier encounter had left her drained, but she refused to let fear take over. She adjusted the bright yellow tablecloth, making sure it was smooth, and set the pitcher back in its place, adding a few fresh ice cubes. Her small act of normalcy was her way of regaining control, reminding herself that the park was her space, at least for now. She glanced around nervously. The other visitors had begun to return slowly. Parents resumed their conversations on the benches, and children cautiously came back to the swings and slides. It was as if the park had been paused during the confrontation, holding its breath, and now it was trying to return to life. The girl took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the summer sun on her face, and tried to focus on the task at hand: selling lemonade. "Would you like some lemonade?" She called to a jogger passing by, her voice slightly shaky but determined. The jogger slowed, nodded politely, and bought a cup. The sound of the ice clinking in the glass and the refreshing sweetness of the lemonade seemed to remind her that not all moments were frightening. But deep down, she knew that the threat hadn't disappeared. The biker gang might have retreated for now, but there was no guarantee they wouldn't come back. The idea made her stomach twist with anxiety. She couldn't stop thinking about how close she had been to real danger. The bikers were big, strong, and unpredictable. Even though the heroes had arrived in time before, she couldn't rely on them being there every time. She poured herself a small cup of lemonade, hoping the cold sweetness would calm her nerves. As she sipped, she noticed a movement near the edge of the park. A shadow lingered behind a group of trees, and she could see the glint of a motorcycle reflecting the sun. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be them? Had the bikers returned? The figure on the motorcycle slowly emerged from behind the trees. It was the same leader, riding alone this time, his leather jacket catching the light as he approached. He slowed as he neared the stand, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, and the girl felt a chill run down her spine. He had returned, and this time, there was no other gang member to hold him back. "Hey again," he called out, his voice low and rough. "Thought I'd stop by and see if my little friend is still selling lemonade." "You're brave, I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't last forever." The girl tightened her grip on the pitcher. She had to think fast. Running again could leave her stranded somewhere unsafe, but standing her ground was terrifying. She straightened, took a deep breath, and forced herself to meet his gaze. "I'm not going anywhere," she said firmly. "This is my stand, and I'm not scared of you." The biker laughed, a deep, throaty sound that made her shiver. "Not scared, huh? That's cute. But you should know, kids like you don't usually last long when people like me are around. You've got guts, but guts don't always win." She felt her knees wobble, but she refused to show it. She could see the biker sizing her up. Deciding whether to push his intimidation further, her mind raced, trying to think of ways to protect herself in her stand. She noticed a few bystanders at the edge of the park, but they were hesitant, unsure how to act. No one seemed ready to step forward, and she realized she had to rely on her courage and quick thinking. Just as the biker revved his motorcycle, making a low growling sound that echoed across the park, the girl remembered the heroes from before. The Rock and John Cena had come when she needed them most. She couldn't count on them showing up immediately, but their presence had taught her that help could arrive in unexpected ways. She held that thought tightly, letting it give her strength. The biker stepped off his motorcycle again, kicking the stand lightly with his boot. The table wobbled and a few ice cubes spilled onto the ground. "You need to learn your place," he said, his voice menacing. "This park isn't yours." "I'm not doing anything wrong," she replied, her voice shaking slightly but loud enough for nearby people to hear. "I'm just selling lemonade. Why don't you leave me alone?" He smirked, moving closer. "Because I can't. Not until I've taught you a lesson." Fear clawed at her chest, but she refused to let it paralyze her. She looked around, spotting a few potential escape routes, paths through the park that led toward busier streets and safer areas. She considered running, but she knew it might provoke him further. She needed another plan, something to distract him long enough to get help. As she thought, she noticed a small group of children playing nearby. Their laughter, innocent and unaware of the danger, reminded her why she couldn't give up. She had to protect herself and her stand. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart, and decided to use her voice as a weapon. "Stop. You don't scare me," she shouted, louder than she expected. Her words carried across the park, drawing attention from everyone nearby. Some adults began to watch, and even a few children paused their games to look. The biker's smirk faltered slightly, surprised by her boldness. You little brat," he growled. His confidence wavered. "You think you can yell at me and I'll back down?" "I'm not alone," she shouted, hoping the sound of bystanders would give her strength. "People are watching. You can't just do whatever you want." For a moment, the biker hesitated. The girl could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted to intimidate, but another part realized he was now the center of attention, with witnesses around. She held her ground, standing tall despite her fear. Suddenly, a loud roar of engines filled the air again. The girl's heart leapt. She squinted toward the entrance of the park and saw the familiar sight. 2 motorcycles approaching, faster and more confident than before. The Rock and John Cena were coming back, riding like they had sensed trouble before it fully arrived. The biker leader froze, his smug expression replaced with alarm. He realized he was outmatched. The group had been enough the first time, but now with these 2 legendary figures returning, the balance of power had shifted completely. The girl felt a rush of relief wash over her. She wasn't defenseless anymore. The heroes had come, and this time they arrived just as she had feared the worst. Her courage, combined with their presence, was a powerful combination. As the motorcycles pulled up, The Rock and John Cena dismounted with practiced ease. Their confident stance immediately changed the atmosphere. The biker took a step back, realizing that his attempt to intimidate had failed. "You again," the biker growled, trying to maintain his threatening posture. "This isn't over." The Rock stepped forward, calm and commanding. "It is over," he said. "Leave now, you're done here." The biker glanced around, noticing the growing number of onlookers. The nearby park visitors had begun to gather, murmuring among themselves, realizing that someone powerful had arrived to protect the girl. Their support, even if silent, added weight to the confrontation. John Cena moved beside the rock, his presence equally imposing. "You've had your fun," he said firmly. "Now leave before things get worse for you." The biker hesitated, his confidence eroding as he realized he was facing someone he could not outmatch. Slowly, he backed toward his motorcycle. Signaling to Annie, the girl stood behind her lemonade stand, her hands still trembling slightly from the excitement and fear of the earlier encounter. The park had slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the danger hadn't fully disappeared. Even with The Rock and John Cena there, she realized that someone like the biker leader would not give up so easily. His eyes had burned with anger and determination when he rode away, and she knew he could come back stronger. She looked down at the lemonade pitcher in front of her and took a deep breath. Pouring herself a fresh cup, she tried to calm her nerves. The ice clinked against the glass, and for a moment, she focused only on the cool sweetness, allowing it to ground her in the present. But the sense of unease lingered. She glanced toward the park's entrance, expecting nothing, yet feeling as if every shadow could hide him. Meanwhile, across the park, The Rock and John Cena remained vigilant. They hadn't gone anywhere. Their presence alone was a reassurance, but they weren't idle. They kept scanning the surrounding streets and pathways, eyes sharp for any sign of the biker gang. Even when children ran past and people returned to their leisurely routines, their focus never wavered. The heroes knew that threats like this could return unexpectedly, and preparation was the best protection. The girl had watched them closely, amazed by their calm, measured confidence. Unlike the biker who relied on intimidation and force, they seemed to radiate strength without needing to be aggressive. Every gesture, every stance was precise, intentional, and protective. It was inspiring. She had thought bravery was only about facing fear head-on, but now she realized it could also be about presence, showing up, standing firm, and giving others the courage to do the same. Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher in the sky. The girl sold a few cups of lemonade here and there, each transaction making her feel more in control. But she never let her guard down. She kept glancing toward the entrance of the park, expecting the return of the threatening biker. Her mind played over what had happened, imagining different scenarios. What if he came back with more friends? What if he tried to take her stand? She knew she had to be ready, and ready he came. From the corner of her eye, she saw the unmistakable glint of chrome in the sunlight. A motorcycle emerged from the street, moving fast and purposefully toward the park. Her stomach lurched. Her fears had been correct. He was returning. But this time he wasn't alone. A few bikers, smaller in number than before, trailed behind him. The girl's heart pounded in her chest and she clutched the lemonade pitcher, feeling the cool condensation against her palms. The biker leader slowed as he approached. His face twisted into a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "I didn't think I'd see you again so soon," he said, his voice carrying across the park. "You got lucky last time, little girl. But luck runs out eventually." She stood her ground, refusing to show fear. "You don't scare me," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. "Leave me alone. You have no right to come here." The biker's grin widened and he stepped off his motorcycle, pushing it to the side. "No right? Funny, this is my park too. I can go wherever I want. And today I think I'm going to have some real fun." Her heart raced and she scanned the park for anything she could use to protect herself. There were a few benches, a trash can, and her lemonade stand, but nothing that could stop a grown man intent on intimidation. She realized she couldn't do this alone. She needed help and she needed it fast. The rumble of engines filled the air again. Her hope surged. From the far end of the park, The Rock and John Cena were returning, moving swiftly and confidently. The heroes had sensed the biker's return and were heading straight for the confrontation. The girl's nerves eased slightly, but she also knew the situation would soon escalate. The biker leader noticed them approaching and stopped in his try. "Geeks!" His confident smirk faltered as the two figures drew closer. The Rock's presence was commanding, his eyes fixed on the leader, and John Cena's posture exuded strength and readiness. The girl could see that these were not ordinary people. They were forces to be reckoned with, and their timing was perfect. "You again," the biker muttered, trying to regain his composure. "I told you last time. You can't stop me." The Rock's voice carried over the park, calm yet firm. "Leave, now. You're done here." John Cena stepped beside him, equally commanding. "This isn't your fight anymore. Back off." The biker hesitated, glancing around nervously. The other park-goers had stopped to watch, their curiosity mixed with fear and hope. He realized that his intimidation tactics had lost their power. The people who had once cowered were now watching confidently, bolstered by the presence of the heroes. The girl's courage grew as she watched the confrontation. She realized that bravery wasn't just about standing alone. It could also be about standing with others, trusting them to help when danger arrived. Her fear was still there, but it was tempered by the knowledge that she wasn't powerless. The biker's smirk faded, replaced with frustration. He revved his motorcycle, trying to create an illusion of strength, but it did little to shake the confidence of The Rock and John Cena. Their presence alone was enough to assert authority, to remind him that he was no longer the one in control. "Time to go," The Rock said, taking a deliberate step forward. The biker growled, feeling trapped. He had expected to intimidate and manipulate, but the situation had turned against him. His options were narrowing, and the realization made him furious. He glanced at his small group of followers who were equally uncertain, and knew that pressing further would only lead to humiliation or worse. The girl watched silently, her heart hammering as the biker leader finally made his decision. With a frustrated snarl, he mounted his motorcycle and signaled to the others to leave. Slowly, reluctantly, they began to ride away, the engines fading into the distance. Relief washed over the girl, and she felt tears prick her eyes. She had faced real danger, yet she had survived. The heroes turned toward her, their expressions softening as they approached. "Are you okay?" The Rock asked, his voice gentle now, filled with genuine concern. "Yes," she said, still catching her breath. "Thanks to you. I don't know what I would have done without you." John Cena smiled. "You were brave too. Standing your ground when he first came at you, that took real courage. Remember that." The girl nodded, realizing that the heroes weren't the only ones who had contributed to the outcome. Her own bravery had mattered. Her refusal to give up had helped maintain the stand, had shown the biker that she wasn't easily intimidated, and had kept her safe until help arrived. The heroes helped ensure the biker and his followers left the area completely. They spoke briefly with parkgoers, explaining that the threat was gone for now and encouraging everyone to stay safe. Children resumed playing, parents relaxed, and the park slowly returned to its lively, sunny rhythm. The girl returned to her lemonade stand, adjusting the tablecloth and arranging the pitchers with renewed focus. She poured a fresh cup, taking a small sip herself, savoring the cold sweetness. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to smile fully, feeling a mix of relief, pride, and determination. She realized that this experience had taught her something important. Bravery wasn't about being fearless. It was about acting despite fear. It was about standing up for yourself and your space, even when the odds seemed against you. And it was about recognizing that help could come in unexpected forms, whether from heroes or from the strength she found within herself. The girl looked to. The girl had spent the afternoon quietly running her lemonade stand, trying to regain a sense of normalcy after the earlier encounters with the biker and his gang. Each cup she sold reminded her that the world could be kind, that people could be supportive, and that courage often came from small, everyday actions. Still, a part of her could not shake the feeling that the danger had not completely passed. The memory of the biker leader's menacing grin and the way he had loomed over her earlier made her nervous. She knew that someone like him rarely let things go so easily. The sun was beginning to lower, casting warm golden light across the park. Shadows grew longer, stretching over the paths and benches. The girl kept a vigilant eye on the park entrance, scanning for any sign of trouble. She adjusted the pitcher of lemonade, trying to focus on something tangible while keeping her nerves in check. Every so often, a parent or jogger passed by, offering a friendly nod or smile, and she felt the slightest lift in her spirits. But the unease remained. Suddenly, a deep rumble broke the peaceful hum of the park. It was unmistakable. The sound of a motorcycle engine, slow and deliberate, echoed from the street. The girl's heart tightened. She turned toward the sound and saw the familiar figure of the biker leader, riding alone this time, his leather jacket glinting in the sunlight. He circled near the entrance, eyeing the park like a predator assessing prey. He was back. The girl's stomach sank, but she straightened, holding her head high. She refused to let fear paralyze her. She had faced him before and she had survived. But she knew this time might be more dangerous. He had clearly come with a plan to intimidate or harm her. She scanned the park quickly. A few children played nearby, their laughter unaware of the threat. Adults were scattered, some stopping to notice the biker's presence, others quietly retreating to safer areas. The park was vulnerable. The biker dismounted his motorcycle, kicking it to the side with deliberate force. "Thought I'd give you another chance," he said, his voice low and rough. "You think the last encounter scared me? I've been planning this. Today things are going to be different." The girl gripped the edge of her lemonade stand. Her hands shook, but she refused to back down. "You're not going to hurt anyone," she said, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her stomach. "I won't let you." He chuckled darkly, walking closer to her stand. "Oh, little girl, you still don't understand. You're just a kid. You can't stop me." Panic threatened to rise, but she took a deep breath and remembered something important. She had faced him before and she had helped then. The Rock and John Cena had arrived just in time to protect her. She knew they wouldn't ignore a situation like this. All she could do was stay calm, stay brave, and hope they came quickly. She scanned the horizon, eyes straining. Then she saw it. 2 motorcycles approaching fast from the far end of the park, moving with precision and confidence. Relief flooded her chest as she realized help was coming. The Rock and John Cena were returning, riding like they had anticipated this moment. Their presence brought an immediate shift in the atmosphere. The biker leader froze. His confident smirk faltered as he noticed the approaching figures. He realized he had underestimated them last time. The girl's bravery had bought her time, but now the heroes were returning to make sure the situation ended once and for all. The girl felt a surge of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. Even if the biker was determined, there were people far stronger and more capable than he was. She could see the tension in his posture as the 2 heroes approached. The Rock dismounted first, his stance calm but commanding. He locked eyes with the biker. "It ends here," he said firmly. "Leave now. You're not going to intimidate her or anyone else." John Cena stepped beside him, equally imposing. "This is your warning. Back off. Don't come near her again." The biker growled, trying to maintain his threatening demeanor, but the shift in the power balance was clear. His confidence had evaporated, replaced by uncertainty. He glanced at his few followers who had come with him. They looked nervous, unsure whether to stand their ground or retreat. The girl watched silently, her heart pounding. She realized how different courage looked depending on perspective. From her viewpoint, the bikers had seemed unstoppable, terrifying. But from the perspective of someone trained, strong, and determined, they were no match for The Rock and John Cena. She understood now that courage was not just about facing fear alone, but also about relying on others when necessary. The biker leader revved his motorcycle, attempting to create an impression of strength. But it was weak compared to the unshakable confidence of the 2 heroes. The Rock stepped forward, his calm yet authoritative voice cutting through the tension. "You need to leave. Now." John Cena's voice followed immediately, firm and unwavering. "You've had your fun. It's over. Back off." The biker leader hesitated. He had expected fear, hesitation, or submission from the girl and bystanders, but he found neither. He realized he was facing not just 2 powerful figures, but also a community that was slowly recognizing his weakness. People had stopped to watch, their expressions a mix of curiosity and hope. The biker's intimidation no longer worked. The girl took a deep breath, feeling her courage grow alongside the hero's presence. She realized that her own bravery had mattered too. She had stood her ground, refused to back down, and bought enough time for the heroes to arrive. Her actions had contributed to the resolution, showing her that courage often worked in combination with others' support. The biker leader growled, frustration building. He knew he couldn't fight them and still maintain any appearance of control. Slowly, he mounted his motorcycle again, signaling his small group to retreat. They hesitated, but eventually they followed him, leaving the park once more. Relief washed over the girl. Her hands unclenched, and the pitcher of lemonade felt lighter. She allowed herself a small smile, realizing that she had survived yet another encounter. The Rock and John Cena turned toward her, expressions softening. "Are you okay?" The Rock asked gently. Yes, she replied, catching her breath. Thanks to you, I don't know what I would have done without you. Cena nodded. You were brave too. Standing your ground made a difference. Remember that. The girl smiled, feeling a mix of pride, gratitude, and relief. She realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. She had faced real danger, and even though she had needed help, her actions had mattered. The Rock and Cena ensured the biker was completely gone before staying with her for a moment longer. They spoke with bystanders, explaining that the situation was safe and encouraging everyone to stay alert. Children resumed playing, parents returned to their benches, and the park gradually The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of dew and blooming flowers from the garden. He stood at the window sipping his coffee, reflecting on the past weeks. The discovery of the chest in the attic, the letters, photographs, and documents had changed something within him. It had been a revelation, not a threat, and in its own way it had strengthened the bond he shared with his wife. For the first time in decades, he felt that the depth of their life together had expanded in ways he could hardly have imagined. She appeared in the doorway, her hair softly tousled, wearing a robe she had chosen years ago but still preferred for its comfort. She smiled at him, a gentle warmth in her eyes, and he returned the smile, feeling a new layer of understanding pass between them. It was a quiet, unspoken acknowledgement that their life, even after 60 years, could still surprise them and teach them about each other. Good morning, she said softly, setting a cup of tea on the table beside him. Good morning, he replied, his voice filled with a calm appreciation. I've been thinking about everything you shared and everything I've discovered. I realize now that knowing the past doesn't change my love for you. If anything, it deepens it. She moved closer, sitting beside him, and took his hand in hers. And I hope you know, she said, that sharing it with you now is not easy. It was my choice to wait, to protect the life we built together. But seeing your understanding and your patience, it's more than I could have hoped for. He squeezed her hand gently. I understand truly, and I want you to know that I respect everything you've lived through. Your past, your choices, your strength. It's all part of the woman I've loved for 60 years, and I still love her deeply. For the rest of the morning, they sat together quietly, sipping their drinks and listening to the sounds of the neighborhood waking up. Birds chirped, leaves rustled in the breeze, and somewhere down the street a dog barked. It was ordinary, mundane, and yet it carried a sense of peace that neither of them had fully appreciated in recent weeks. The process of reconciling with the hidden truths of her past was gradual. He realized that he did not need to understand every detail to appreciate the courage, resilience, and wisdom she had carried silently for decades. What mattered most was the honesty and openness they shared now, the willingness to face the unknown together, and the recognition that love could endure revelations even after a lifetime. Over the next several days, their life settled into a new rhythm. They continued their routines, but there was a subtle difference. He noticed the small details of her daily habits with renewed attention. The way she arranged the kitchen, the gentle way she moved through the house, the care she took in tending the garden. Each action, familiar for decades, now carried a deeper significance, a reflection of the life she had lived before and alongside him. He found himself asking gentle questions, not out of suspicion but out of curiosity and admiration. This letter you wrote, he asked one afternoon, it speaks of a difficult decision. How did you manage it all? She smiled, a mixture of humility and pride. I did what I had to do, she said simply. I carried it with me quietly. Life has a way of teaching us what we are capable of, even when we don't realize it. He nodded, absorbing her words. He realized that her hidden past had shaped the person he loved. The patience, the wisdom, and the quiet strength that had guided their family, their home, and their life together. Each revelation was a testament to her resilience and her integrity, a reminder that even in ordinary life, extraordinary courage can exist. Their children, now grown and living lives of their own, noticed a subtle change in the couple. Visits were filled with warmth, laughter, and a renewed sense of closeness. They sensed that the couple had navigated a revelation that could have been divisive but instead had become a source of connection and strength. Family meals became moments of reflection and storytelling, where the husband and wife shared anecdotes both lighthearted and profound, weaving together the threads of past and present. One afternoon, while sitting in the garden, he picked up a photograph from the chest, showing her as a young woman in a city far away. He studied her posture, the confidence in her gaze and the determination evident in her expression. "I never knew this side of you," he said softly. She looked at the photograph, her eyes tracing the familiar lines of her younger self. "That was a time of growth, challenge, and learning," she said. "It shaped who I am, and in some ways it prepared me for the life we built together." He reached for her hand, feeling the warmth and continuity of their connection. "I can see that now," he said, "and it makes me appreciate our life together even more. I love you, not just for the years we've shared, but for the strength, courage, and wisdom you've carried all along." Tears glistened in her eyes as she smiled. "And I love you for seeing me, for accepting me, and for choosing to face this journey with me. It has not been easy, but it has been worth it." Evenings became a time for reflection and quiet conversation. They spoke of memories, joys, regrets, and dreams yet to be fulfilled. The past, once hidden, now became a source of stories, lessons, and shared understanding. The letters and photographs were no longer secret objects in the attic, but catalysts for dialogue and connection, bridges between the life she had lived and the life they continued to build together. He realized that love was not about knowing everything from the start, but about the willingness to explore, understand, and embrace the complexity of another person's life. Their marriage had endured 60 years, and now it had deepened in ways neither of them had anticipated. Hidden truths, rather than dividing them, had strengthened their bond and brought new dimensions of trust, respect, and admiration. One evening they sat on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one in the night sky. He reflected on the journey they had taken, from discovery to understanding, from shock to admiration, from curiosity to acceptance. The hidden truths of her past had been revealed gradually, and in doing so, had created an even stronger foundation for their shared life. "I never imagined," he said softly, "that even after 60 years we could still learn so much about each other. It feels wonderful in a way I can't fully describe." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Life is full of surprises," she said. "Even after decades, even after years of shared memories, there are always parts of ourselves that remain hidden. But love, patience, and understanding, they allow us to discover those parts together, safely and gently." He held her close, feeling the warmth and comfort of their bond. He realized that their life together was not defined solely by the years they had spent in routine, but by the willingness to embrace change, revelations, and the full complexity of human experience. The love they shared was resilient, not because it avoided challenges, but because it adapted, grew, and deepened through them. In the days that followed, he continued to explore the chest, but now with a sense of reverence rather than urgency. Each letter, photograph, and document was a testament to her life, a story of courage, resilience, and humanity. He felt gratitude for the trust she had placed in him, for the choice to share what she could, and for the bond they had strengthened through this journey of discovery. Their conversations deepened, touching on topics both mundane and profound. They spoke of memories, hopes, and lessons learned. They laughed at small anecdotes, reflected on the challenges they had faced, and marveled at the twists of fate that had brought them together. Each dialogue was a thread, weaving past and present into a tapestry that celebrated their shared life and the hidden stories that enriched it. He realized that the revelations he had uncovered were not just about the past. They were about the present and the future. Understanding her hidden truths allowed him to appreciate her fully, to honor her experiences, and to embrace the richness of life they continued to share. He felt a renewed sense of commitment, recognizing that love could flourish when it embraced honesty, empathy, and a willingness to explore the depths of another person's experiences. One afternoon, while tending the garden, he reflected on the journey they had taken. The chest in the attic had revealed secrets and experiences carefully guarded for decades, yet the process of discovery had brought them closer than ever. He understood that their marriage,